say something that might feel a little uncomfortable, but also really freeing? What if the goal isn't to get your younger body back? What if the goal is to build stronger, more energetic, more confident version of yourself right now?
Why do we keep going back to quick fixes, even when we know they don't work? Welcome to the Coach's Hotline. Glucose, grit, and grace. Real talk with coaches, no sugarcoating.
We're here to help you ditch the diet cycle, stabilize blood sugar, and finally feel at home in your body.
Because health isn't about restriction. It's about freedom, energy, and confidence.
Let's dive in.
Welcome back to the Coach's Hotline, Glucose, Grit, and Grace. Real talk with coaches, no sugarcoating. Today we're talking about something that we see all the time, especially with women in our age. The idea that somehow our best years are behind us. And we're here to tell you that is just not so. So I hear this all the time. I just want to be back to my 20s weight, or what I weighed in high school, or fit into those jeans that I had in high school. Or I used to be able to eat anything I wanted. So what we don't talk about, though, is were we actually healthy back then, or were we just smaller?
Oh, yeah.
I think sometimes what happens is we were in love with maybe how we looked, but there was so much more going on. I know for me, mentally, even physically, I had so much more going on at that time than what I do now. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's more than just the body. I think
Yes,
it's a time in our life. I mean, if you think about back in like when you were a teenager, life was brand new and you were learning all of these things and meeting all of these people. Those are life experiences that are etched in our brain that honestly have nothing to do with what we see in the mirror. And so I think a lot of what we are remembering is the nostalgia from the time.
Mm.
And that's what we want to have back. Because I know myself in high school, I was hyper aware of what I was putting into my body. I was skipping meals. I was under eating. I was always on a diet. And then when I would go out with friends, I would want to indulge like they did. Well, I now know that the reason that I didn't feel as awful after all of those indulgences is because my body was younger in the sense that I hadn't spent 40 to 50 years toasting my cells, spiking my blood sugar.
Yeah.
Like kids, they eat candy and it spikes their blood sugar just like it does us, except that we feel the effect because we've had X amount of decades of doing that same thing. And so when you understand the physiology that's actually happening in your body, I know I wasn't eating healthy.
Right.
I just didn't feel it. And maybe that's what I want to get back to. But we also now know how to eat so that we don't feel like that.
You said something really important, Amber, about that toasting of your body, because when your blood sugar is unstable, it's going up and down all the time. It glycates, right? And glycation is like cooking your cells. Your cells are dying faster. So when we were younger, our bodies could rebound better. And now that our bodies have been under this stress for 20, 30 years, all of a sudden our bodies can't rebound because it has been just trying to keep us alive, right?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't have the capacity anymore. So we can't actually go back to where we are because of what we've done to our bodies.
Yeah.
So So I love this idea of looking forward to build a body that supports me now instead of backward, because everything in midlife is so different from the body that we had in our 20s and 30s, right? In our
Yes.
20s, we had more muscle mass, we had better insulin sensitivity, we had faster recovery. And let's face it, our food was actually a little bit more nutritious than it is now, right?
Yeah.
And then now we've lived in this blood sugar dysregulation for so long. And our bodies are like, I can't even do this anymore. And so we're like insulin resistant. We have pre-diabetes, our hormones shift, our muscles decline. And we have to acknowledge that where we are right now is different. The science doesn't change, but our bodies have changed. The facts don't change, but the fact is we don't have the same exact bodies that we had when we were younger. So really, like, how freeing is that to let go of that, to say, I don't have to be that person anymore. I can learn how to support my body where I am right now and
Yeah,
move forward, right?
absolutely.
I do
And-
love that. In fact, Elaine, until you had said, what if we just tried to be really, you said, let's be the best version of ourselves right now. Being as ingrained in the diet culture as I have been, and let's be real, there are still components of it that I'm still trying to unlearn and get out of my normal thought patterns. I had never thought of, you know what, here's where I am and let's move forward. Really honoring everything that your body has accomplished and been through in your entire life.
Yeah. And I think part of it too is kind of that. I know when I was younger, my 20s, 20s, 30s, and I can even remember, I guess I don't know if they're horrific memories but the memories that I think about a lot are when I was in high school. And even into my early 20s. But there was a lot of food guilt. There was a lot, oh, I shouldn't be eating this. But at the same time, I didn't want to be different than the people I was around. I wanted to eat like the thin girl, or I wanted to be able to eat like the cheerleader or whatever it was, I wanted to be just like them. So there was a lot about my own identity that I wasn't quite comfortable with, that I feel like now I wouldn't want to go back to that. I mean, when I think about the things that were going through my mind, because I would have, as a result, I would have that food guilt. I would have that starting over every Monday because, we had the weekend. I was with my friends on the weekend. Not that they weren't friends. I don't know why I used air quotes there.
Yeah.
But anyway, but I was with my friends on the weekend. And so I was going to be like them. And so I was starting over every Monday. I'm not sure that I thought so much as carbs were the enemy as fat. For me, it was a lot about the fat.
Yeah.
Don't eat fat. Don't have butter. Don't have, all this other stuff. So eliminate the fat as much as you can.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah. Because we were told fat makes you fat.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
That kind of made sense, I guess.
Wow.
But let's be honest. I feel like nobody actually wants their 25-year-old body back. Now, maybe we didn't have the pain that we had at 25. We may have not had the aches and pains that we have now. But I think for me, what we really want is we do want to feel better. So we can't go back. We can't go back to how we felt when we were 25. Okay. And even if it's those good feelings that you want to get back. But what we can do is move forward so that we feel better. So, we want how we think we felt at that time.
Yes.
And I feel like we can get that now. So, and I feel like what we really want is some steady energy. We don't want to crave things as much as we did before. We want to feel confident in our clothes. We want to have the strength to be able to get up, to walk around, to do the things. And we want to have peace around food. We don't want to have this thing, oh, I really shouldn't be doing this. I really shouldn't be eating this. There was a process where when I was in my IT world, we talked about I should have all overed myself.
Right.
So I shouldn't have done that. I should have done this. I should have done
Right.
that. So by not should've-ing, I guess that's a new word.
Shooting.
It for me, it gave me peace around food.
Mm-hmm.
So
Because there's a lot of guilt wrapped up in the word should.
yes,
For sure.
Because it means you made the wrong choice.
yeah,
And that's
exactly.
awful.
Yeah, that's a good way of, yeah, absolutely.
So I think that there's like two ways we can go about this, because there's a physiology connection.
Mhm.
There's also like a identity and mental layer too, right?
Absolutely.
But the physiology, we can't ignore that. We can't ignore that our bodies have changed, that these blood sugar swings, that these energy swings, these cravings, the science of how our body works is the same but different, right? It's the same. Our body works the same way as it always has, but it's different because it's aged. It's, it's been working real. For me, I've told the story before, but my big aha moment was, wow, I can't believe how hard my body has worked to just keep me alive based on everything that I've done to it, right? So, if our bodies have been unstable for this long time, they just can't function the way it used to. And that's why that's why blood sugar stabilization is so like such a light bulb, such a light in the dark world of diet mentality, right? Because it's something that you can do to purposefully and intentionally change your mood and your focus and your energy and your cravings by fueling your body the way it needs to be fed. So when your blood sugar is stable, you have that peace, you have that strength, you have all the things, because your body's like, gosh, I don't have to keep you alive anymore. I can like go do all the other things that I've been putting off because you've not been feeding me well. But feeding our bodies well really makes such a big difference. But then there's also that identity layer. And I know, Amber, you wanted to talk about this a little bit more, but there's such a big identity from who I was in my 20s to who I am now. In my 20s, I was unsure.
Yeah.
I did not have confidence. I did not know who I was or what I wanted to do. And now in my 50s, I do. And that's powerful.
Isn't it? Doesn't it feel so good?
It does.
Well, I do want to talk about mindset. And here's the thing that I was thinking as we were talking. Yes, we've done damage to our cells through blood sugar spikes and processed foods and things like that. And for me personally, and I know I'm not alone in this, I always felt like I needed to fix myself. And as I've now gotten older, there's also some things that happen naturally in your body, like your hormones changing, that are not a result of choices that I made.
Right.
They're just a result of being a female of a certain age, right?
Yes.
And but that mentality of I need to fix myself, that didn't change. So as I realized that hormones were becoming an issue for me, it was just another layer of something I had to fix.
Right.
And that can also be very defeating. If I've spent 40 years dieting with the mentality of I need to fix myself and now it's getting worse. I mean, that's why I started this whole lifestyle thing, is I was freaked out that hormones were going to make everything I'd been struggling with for 40 years worse.
Yeah.
And so that idea of fixing yourself, getting rid of that, and now reframing it. And it's not an easy thing to do. I will say, you don't just go, all right, I'm changing my mindset. I mean, maybe some people can. I can't. But move from I need to
If
fix
you
myself.
can, be our guest.
Right? I hear
Exactly.
you. Yeah, please come on. If you can do that on a dime, we want you. But really moving that from I need to fix myself to I'm building myself. You
Or
know,
supporting myself.
one of our mentors said, you can't unknow what you know. You can
Mhm,
choose different. You can choose to go back
Right.
to what you were doing, but you can't unknow it.
mhm.
You
Right.
know, and so if you know it and you are working on that mindset, I'm now building myself, that knowledge, those are the tools that you actually have to support you building that identity of building yourself.
Right.
And I think that can be really empowering.
So I love how you talked about that, Amber, that it's not that we have to fix ourselves,
Mhm.
but we can learn how to support ourselves because our bodies are so resilient. They are designed to heal. And
Mhm.
so it's not that we have to fix anything. Our body can fix things. But when we support ourselves and we help ourselves and build ourselves, we could really make a difference for ourselves.
Yeah, I feel like that frees up resources that our body needs to be able to heal and build itself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I really think what both of you said goes a long way with that. Because if we continue to not necessarily, I mean, we all know that what we teach is nothing is off limits, but we all know that when we eat healthier foods, things like that, that our body reacts differently. I mean, we all know that when we've, maybe had a little bit more red light meals or, than maybe we should. I know I have, the holidays, I don't know why, especially Easter. Christmas isn't so bad or Thanksgiving, but Easter, I think it's because it focuses all around the candy and the
Mhm.
Yeah.
direct sugars. To me, I call those direct sugars. Those are all sugars. And by not having that, and when we kind of go back to more of that clean eating, it does. And I think of my body as a computer, being an IT person.
Mhm.
When we give it the right information and when we feed it the way it should, we do free up those resources for our body to then go in and say, hey, I don't now need to compensate for all that sugar you ate because this is something that is balanced. You've stabilized your blood sugar through your food, so I don't have to do it. Now I can go focus on these things.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I totally agree, Elaine. I'm always so astounded by how much our body can do.
Well, and when we have that stable blood sugar, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that food noise quiets down.
Yes.
And we are constantly hearing people talk about bandwidth. Oh, I don't have the bandwidth for that on my plate right now.
Yeah.
And isn't necessarily related to food, but isn't it related to food? If our food noise is so loud,
Yeah.
we may not have the bandwidth for really anything else. And so I think it's freeing for your body, but it's also freeing for your brain, your bandwidth. And, there's a lot of power in that.
There
Mhm.
is. And a lot of times when we feel overwhelmed, we feel
Mhm.
stressed. What do we turn to? We've done some of that on scrolling. Okay. So
Mhm.
how much time and how much of our bandwidth is used on things to try and calm us down and to try and
Mhm.
quiet us? Where if we can do that, which I didn't know this stuff when I was in my 20s. So, that's where I really feel like, I felt like I was struggling when I was in my 20s.
Mhm.
But going back to that, why would we want to trade? We've learned so much,
Oh, yeah.
from the 20s to, I mean, I'm in my mid 60s now. I
Mhm.
have learned so much. I've experienced so much. And like you, Elaine, my confidence is so much higher or better than
Mhm.
what it was 40 years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it wasn't about a smaller body. I didn't gain that confidence for a smaller body. Um, that smaller body that I had, it came from confusion and restriction. I was confused on what I needed to do. I was restricting Monday through Friday, maybe Friday noon. I was restricting my food. Okay. And then when it came time to be with friends, you know, dating, seeing people, being out with your families, cookouts, all of that, it was like a free for all. And then I was starting all over on Monday. So, you know, learning what I've learned, and I've often said this, I wish I'd have learned this even just 20 years earlier. And it's not just about, you know, again, we've always preached, this isn't a diet, this is a lifestyle. And had I understood the connection between blood sugar and so much more in my body, I guess that would be the only thing I would want to go back. But I want to go back with the knowledge that I have now, which I don't think I can.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So in looking at that, if you look at your goal, if your goal is behind you, if you're trying to get to a goal that you had 20 years ago, you're always trying to chase it, to recreate it.
And you're going back.
I'm sorry, what was that?
And you're going backwards.
Yes, exactly. But how hard is it to chase something that's already happened?
When you say it like that, it's impossible.
Exactly.
I mean, we legit cannot go back in time. I mean, I'm waiting for the opportunity when that's actually feasible, but we can't go back in time. And so if we've already passed when we were supposed to reach our goal, you're like chasing ghosts. Ghosts.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, and the thing is that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Yeah.
And I never equated that to myself until just right now. But if you think about the 40 plus years of dieting that a lot of us have done, you know, the under eating, the over exercising, you know, the skipping meals, and then when we're with friends, we're binging because we are wanting to eat the way that they eat, not knowing what they've got going on in their brain either, you know. And then being on that diet cycle, that is exactly the definition of insanity. Because every time I started back on Monday, I super thought that this time was going to be different.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, but what I know now is that each time I dieted, I was losing muscle mass. Like there's physiological reasons, not just mental. I lost muscle mass. My metabolism slowed down. And so, you know, my body was in crisis mode. It didn't need all of the calories or, you know, the foods that I was eating over the weekend. And because it was in crisis mode, we know that that stores all of that extra as fat. So I was on this perpetual cycle. And, you know, I think anybody who has a similar story, every time we started over, we were actually starting farther behind. And so if you start farther behind and you do the same thing, you're never going to get ahead.
Yeah.
It's defeating.
And I mean, when you look at when you would start a diet, you would lose, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 pounds. And then when you stopped it, how much would you gain back? Probably 25 or 30 pounds. So that's where you say, it's what made me think of is when you said we're actually going backwards. So,
well, and the thing is that we lost muscle when we were losing weight. We may have lost a little fat, but we mostly lost muscle.
Yeah.
When we gain it back, it doesn't come back as muscle.
No.
And that's a bigger problem.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's the bummer of all of it.
Yeah, it is.
And that's what makes it harder and harder, right? Because muscle is what helps you fuel your metabolism.
Yeah.
But if we're burning our muscle, then that ratio gets off.
Here are some things to remember. You're not failing. You're using outdated strategies. So we want to move forward. So if we're moving forward, what are we actually building? So some of the things that, we teach is around eating consistently. I will tell you, I never thought about eating every 3 to 4 hours. I didn't know my body was a fuel as you go system. I thought if I didn't eat all day, and then when we went out to dinner that night, that would be okay because it's the same amount of calories. When in reality, that's not what my body does.
Mm-mm.
Strength training. When I was in my 20s, 30s, it was jazzercise. It was aerobics. It was, so if there wasn't strength training involved with that, and not that those aren't good, they are, but we also need to build that muscle. Cardio builds, while you're using your muscle, it builds the muscle differently than when you're strength training.
Yeah.
And we need that strength training. Hydration, sleep. We've talked about, we teach all of that and how it helps us to move forward.
And that it's a whole like lifestyle. It's not just food. It's not just sleep. It's not just movement.
Right.
All of it together is what matters.
Good point. Yep, absolutely.
Absolutely. And I just want to touch on something real quick that you were talking about, Elaine. Muscle is built differently when you are intentionally strength training, rather than just like movement, cardio, things like that. And why that's important is that muscle is your metabolic currency. Let that land for a second. Metabolic currency. And why that is true is that it helps stabilize our blood sugar. It promotes releasing stored fat. And we know, as far as longevity and osteoporosis and osteopenia are concerned, it is paramount. It is a game changer in those things that I think a lot of us think are just inevitable. Oh yeah, I'm going to get arthritis, or not arthritis, osteoporosis because I'm old. No, that's not why you get
to. Yeah.
Yes.
That's a lot of these things, a lot of these symptoms of blood sugar dysregulation, we think is just aging.
Yeah.
And it isn't. And we don't have to deal with it. We don't have to be our parents dealing with these things.
Yes.
So here's the other thing I love about what we teach is we teach these little 1% habits over motivation, right? Because on Monday your motivation's high, but on Friday it is not. So here's my hot take. Motivation is so overrated, right? Because if we build it, if we wait to feel motivated before we take action, but motivation doesn't come, where are we? Right? We're still sitting on the couch waiting for motivation to come. Yep. So it's these habits that we teach that actually change your life. Going day by day, small increments, small learning, small changes. And that's what matters because it's what you do on the days that you don't feel like doing it. Those things are what matters the most. And here's the magic. Those small, repeatable wins don't just change your habits, but they change your identity because you start to see that you can be successful, right? All of our lives, we've done diets and we've been unsuccessful or successful for a minute and then not. But when you are changing how you're showing up in the world and what you're thinking about and what you're doing for your health, you stop trying to be healthy. Trying is such a word that it's like, right? I'm trying. Well, are you really? But you stop when you're implementing these small steps, you stop trying to be healthy and you just become someone who does it. It's your identity. So when we focus on habits and changing the way we do things and changing the way we think, we don't need to wait for motivation. Instead, we get momentum, right? Because those little habits build on each other and we start trusting ourselves and seeing success, and we can start to grow and become who we want to be instead of regressing to who we used to be.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, Elaine, because that is so true. I mean, how many times, in a diet, we were motivated, right? And then that motivation went away. But what had we learned? Those little 1% changes, there weren't any. It was a very drastic, you eat this food, here's your plan. There was nothing else involved with that.
Right.
And then your
motivation
motivation goes, that's okay.
No, I
Then
was
your
just going to
motivation
add on
goes,
to that real quick. Motivation is so that you can white knuckle it to do exactly
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that things happen in life. Unfortunately, we are not going to be, level, anxieties, things like that. If anybody is, again, be great to have you on the show, so know how to do that. But life is ebbs and flows. You're going to have highs and you're going to have lows. All of those, if you're depending strictly on motivation, those highs and lows are going to throw you for a loop.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be motivated. But when you learn, and that's why this was great, Elaine, I love this. When you have these habits, it's just something that you do. You don't even think about it necessarily. There's no motivation involved. I can tell you after eating proteins, fats, and carbs every 3 to 4 hours, my body wants that now. I don't even think about it. If something happens, if I'm sick or I'm ill, I'm still hungry. Now, I may change a little bit of what I eat. It may not be spicy stuff, or it may not be this, or different things depending on what, especially if you're sick, what you can tolerate. But my body still is craving those proteins, fats, and carbs every 3 hours.
Mhm.
So I think that's to me, it just is mind-boggling that if we can balance our body, that it becomes a habit. And even when life gets tough, or even when life gets happy, it's just the way we live. So I love that.
Kind of like brushing our teeth. We don't have to be
Yeah.
motivated to brush our teeth, right? It's just something
Right.
that we do.
Exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I know this isn't sexy, but it's what actually works. Life isn't always 100% sexy. All right. It isn't always all of those, hey, rainbows and unicorns. So we also want to make sure that we're doing what actually works. And this is where the proteins, fats, and carbs every 3 hours fits in so beautifully, because it supports your body that you have now, not the one that you had at 25. But what it also does, which is what we've kind of talked about, is it allows you to free up those resources in your body to heal, because our body is damaged somewhat and we need to heal it. After 40 years of dieting and deprivation and restriction, our body's confused. It's like, I don't know what you're going to do for me.
Right.
So we need to let it, kind of calm down a little bit. And we need to let it say, oh, this is what you're going to do. I can now depend on you to do this, which gets back into the habits that you talked about, Elaine. And now I can now take these resources and I can heal some of this stuff that we've been trying to work on. So it's kind of like that to-do list, I think.
Yeah.
That your body has.
For sure. So we keep talking about proteins, fats, and carbs. And I know that when I first work with a client, they're like, I cannot eat a big meal every 3 hours. I'll be cooking all the time. And so what I tell people is we're not going to the Golden Corral every 3 hours and filling up our plates. We are having a specific amount of proteins, fats, and carbs that will fuel your body, giving it just what it needs so it doesn't have to store any of it as fat. So I just kind of wanted to talk about why this protein, fats, and carbs is so important. So first of all, protein, you need protein because it maintains and it builds your muscle. And your protein keeps you full, and the protein gives you the fuel to support your metabolism. Whereas carbs, you still need carbs. Anybody that doesn't eat carbs is going to have some brain issues because your brain runs on carbs. And that's what your cells use for fuel, right? And carbs help prevent crashes and we can eat them all day, right? Because we're having proteins, fats, and carbs. But
Right.
I'm not having a box of crackers every meal. I am having an apple or, a handful of half cup of rice or whatever.
Right.
And then fats are so important too. We talked earlier about, in the 80s, we all did no fat, which means they added sugar to everything to still make it taste good.
Yeah.
And unbalanced us that way. But fats are so important because when fats are digested, they help stabilize your hormones. It gives you satisfaction, and it also slows down your digestion. So if you're eating carbs without fat, the glucose hits your bloodstream really fast, and your glucose will spike. But if you eat it with fats, it will enter your bloodstream slower, and so you don't have that high spike, right? So that's what they all do, and that's what we're not taught. We're not ever taught this.
No.
But that's what they do, and that's what they do when they work together, and it's so important. So those balanced meals stabilize your blood sugar curve and give you less spikes, fewer crashes, and fewer cravings, and more fat burning, actually, because when you're in that homeostasis that your body craves, when you put it there instead of your body having to try to make it there, then your body's like, oh, this is cool. I can get rid of extra fat because I know I'm going to get food. I know I'm not in a deficit.
And that's interesting what you say about the fats, because there actually is, and I saw this with one of my clients. She swore she ate the exact same meal, and she was wearing a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor. And when she ate this same meal, her blood sugar spiked. Couldn't figure out why. So we talked about it. I'm like, are you sure? What did you eat? Found out she eliminated that. She had, by accident, just hadn't had the fat. And because of that, like you just explained, Elaine, it caused her blood sugar to spike, and she was hungry within like an hour and a half.
Right.
So that's why you need all of these together. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things that we've talked about several times is that all of us were really a little taken aback in a really great way about how our cravings lessened.
Yeah.
Right. So we started eating this way, and all of a sudden we're like, wait a minute, where did all those cravings go?
Yeah.
Right.
Which is really empowering. And what that starts to do in your mindset is starts to remove that fear of food, because those cravings don't have power over you anymore.
Right.
And what is really beautiful about this is that everything is a protein, fat, and a carb. And so technically everybody eats well, maybe if you're only eating the carbs, you're not. But we have the potential. But when we have that structure of the PFC balance, and we fuel our bodies every 3 hours, you really do get to a point where you're not feeling restricted. You understand the structure, and you know how to make that structure work for you and for your body.
Yeah.
And that's why we say nothing's off limits, because we can always make it work.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's what kind of amazed me when I found this lifestyle, was the fact that I could have everything. It's just a matter of how I paired it.
Exactly.
So that was just kind of mind blowing, because how many times we've been on a diet and it's like, oh, well, you can't have this and you can't have that, and don't eat this and don't eat that. And, it was like, oh my gosh, how can you live with that? The restriction is just, and then when we can't have it, we want it more.
Exactly.
So,
whole mindset thing. Oy.
It is, definitely. So this is not about going backwards. This is about doing it in a way that works for your life now. Some people have told me, well, I had less pain when I was younger. And you may have. And that's why we want to look at that. Your best years aren't behind you. Those weren't your best years. But if you build them, you're going to get better years than what you had in your 20s and 30s. It may take a little bit, but I can tell you the effects of eating balanced and eating, good, I'm going to call them the good foods and greens and fruits and vegetables, helps you build more quickly than you know. Your body is an amazing machine.
Yes.
So if this hits home, if you're tired of chasing the past, we'd love to help you build forward. So like this, if there's anyone that you know can relate to this, if they're always saying, hey, I want to wear those jeans I had in high school, or, I felt better then, I want to be back to where I was in my 20s and 30s. Think about, do you really? And send them this episode so that they can listen. Like and subscribe, as we'd love to hear from you. And if you have any kind of topics you'd like us to cover, we'd love to hear it. Thanks, everyone.
See you next time.
See you later.
Bye.